Episode 103, Jade's Kidnapping. Jade started to feel a panic in her heart. She felt that she'd fallen in love with Dario without even knowing it. Just then, Sheila suddenly leaned close to Jade's ear and asked very directly, "By the way, how long will it take for you two to have sex? Let me tell you, this question is very important." Jade was so shocked that she didn't dare to speak anymore. Sheila, this kind of thing, how can I answer that?" Jade's face instantly went red. She stuttered and couldn't even speak properly. But Sheila didn't think much of it and even patted her hand and said, "What's there to be embarrassed about? I treat you as my younger sister. We are all women, so don't be embarrassed." "That we haven't yet." At that moment, Jade really wished that she could find a hole to hide in. She would never have expected Sheila to ask her such an awkward question. Hearing that they had never done that before, Sheila looked surprised, but quickly put on an earnest face and said, "What? Not yet? How can that be? Jade, this is your fault. You have chosen to marry, so you must really become a husband and wife. I know you're still young, but it's only a matter of time. If you're unable to satisfy your husband, then it's very likely that he'll find another woman." Jade covered her face and became more and more embarrassed. "Sheila, don't say any more. I know, I'll go home now." "That's good. When you get back, you have to take the initiative." Sheila's words made Jade feel dazed. But after a while, she began to reflect to herself. Was it really her fault? On several occasions, it seemed like she was the one who provoked him first, but then was unwilling to continue. After thinking about it for a while, it seemed like it was indeed her fault. She didn't understand why, but because of what Sheila had said, Jade felt the urge for the first time to really be husband and wife when she was with Dario. She walked out of the ward and was completely dizzy. Jade slowly walked and finally made up her mind to go home. But just when she was about to take a taxi, a black van suddenly stopped in front of her. A few masked men rushed out of the van and forcefully took her away. Before she knew what was happening, Jade's eyes were covered and her mouth was stuffed with something. She didn't know what was going on at all. It all happened too suddenly. Panic filled Jade's body. She trembled in fear and didn't know where she was at all. She twisted her tied-up body and thrashed about all over the place. Then someone hit her neck hard. She felt a sharp pain and fainted. When she woke up after an unknown amount of time, her eyes were still covered in darkness. Her surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. Her body was stiff, and she didn't dare to move. She thought that she might have been kidnapped. But why would she be kidnapped? She had nothing. She slowly calmed down. She had to think of a way to escape. Jade fell to the ground and carefully touched the things around her. Unfortunately, she couldn't find anything. While lying on the ground, she rubbed off the black cloth covering her face. She could just barely see things. Jade narrowed her eyes and surveyed her surroundings. She seemed to be in a very luxurious room. There was no one around, making her feel very strange. Still tied up, she stood up with difficulty. She desperately moved towards the door because her hands were tied. She struggled with all her effort to open the door of the room. It seemed like she was in an entertainment club, similar to the Scoville Club. Jade frowned. She knew this wasn't a good place. To put it nicely, it was a place where rich people gathered. To put it bluntly, there were all kinds of people here. She wanted to find her bag and phone, but she looked around the room for a long time and couldn't find her bag anywhere. Her heart skipped a beat. Has someone taken her bag? Jade wondered what she should do. She suddenly felt helpless. If she could call Dario, he would definitely come to save her, but in this situation, she didn't think he'd be able to find her at all. Or maybe he would still show up somehow. Jade gritted her teeth. She couldn't always rely on Mr. Foster. She had to rely on herself. She couldn't trouble him anymore. With all her strength, she went outside to ask for help, but there wasn't a single person in the corridor. She was soon covered in sweat. When she finally saw a waiter, she noticed that an acquaintance of hers was standing beside the waiter. It was Bruce Stevens. Why was he here? Jade absolutely could not let him see her like this. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how she died. She silently moved in the opposite direction, but the other direction only brought her another nightmare. "Let me tell you, don't try to trick me. I've seen all kinds of women." A bald, middle-aged man walked towards her, followed by a few men in black. When Jade saw that man, she was dumbstruck. Wasn't he the man who she met at the bar the last time that claimed to be her friend and wanted to do something to her? Oh my God. What were they doing at this place? Jade was stuck in a dilemma. She was stunned on the spot. When she wanted to find a random room to hide in, one of the men beside the bald guy suddenly discovered her. "Tom, it's that woman! Damn it! How did she get out?" Tom stared at Jade, who was still tied up and wanted to run away. He looked at her with dirty eyes. Because she was tied up and wearing a dress, Jade's legs were exposed. Her chest was also tightly tied by a rope. She looked very seductive. Tom was a pervert, and when he saw Jade, his eyes immediately lit up. "Still playing? Big brother likes it." Then he noticed her face and hurriedly went forward to take a closer look. He quickly realized something and even went forward to touch her. He said, "Beauty, long time no see. I never thought that I would meet you here." Jade had goosebumps all over her body. She thought that being caught by this old pervert would be the end of her. Jade was scared half to death and wanted to run. But being tied up, how could she run? "You still want to run? You guys, catch that woman!" Tom immediately called for someone to drag Jade back to the room. Jade's mouth was blocked, so she couldn't make a sound. She thought that this man must be someone with great power and influence. Even if she called out so the waiters could see what was happening, she thought that no one would dare to come and help her. She was in grave danger.